Hello, TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. Now, I'm going to be showing you 5 decks that are currently dominating the meta in terms of both meta share and win rate. I find all of these on Marvel Snap Zone, not in any way affiliated with it, but it's a great website, so definitely check it out for info on the top decks, top cards, things like that. But these are the 5 that they've got showing as the best in the meta, so let's dive right into these. First up is this Sarah Control deck. Now, Sarah Control has been around for a while. Very solid deck, but there have definitely been some changes in the cards that are included now versus what were included. So Kitty Pryde becoming a bigger part of the meta, definitely included in this deck. Nova's always been included. I love Angela and Hitmonkey as well. I think they are awesome. Zabu, a great 2-drop. Now, Sentinel has always been a staple of this deck. Definitely helps you in getting consistent power out onto the board. They used to run other 2-drops in this deck as well. I'm pretty sure that this deck was running a Scarlet Witch at one point. So, you know, this deck has kind of been around, but it's been changing slightly. It's also got Mysterio, Bishop, and Killmonger, so Bishop being another huge part of your power. Putting him down on Angela feels amazing. Killmonger to destroy your Nova and buff all of your stuff up, while hopefully deleting some of their 1-drops there. 2 4-drops in Shang-Chi and Enchantress, kind of your counter card. Shang-Chi to take out anything huge. Enchantress to do the same, but to those ongoing Darkhawks and Devil Dinos. And then, of course, Sarah, the card that the deck is built around, giving you the discounts to absolutely pop off on turn 6. This deck it just feels really consistent. You've got multiple ways to win. You've got power. You've got answers. Now, it can certainly struggle against, decks looking to slow you down. So anything that's playing Sandman or is playing like a last turn, well, not last turn, but a turn 5 wave now that wave's been changed, is definitely going to cause this deck to struggle. But overall, a pretty solid deck. To be honest, it's not my favorite just in the terms of the way it plays, but I can definitely see the power. I see how people get the wins. I've gotten my fair share of wins with it as well, but just not one of my favorites, even though it is so consistent. And hey, it's been around. It's just a really good deck. It's not too expensive either, so it makes it super accessible. A lot of people can play it, therefore it's seeing a lot of play and getting a ton of wins. But overall, really solid deck. But let's hop right into the next one here. We're not even going to cut. We're just going to slide right over, and it's Modoc Discard. Now, this is the version that has kind of popped up lately. This isn't the version I prefer to play. I'll show you that after I talk about this one here. You've got your discard package in pretty much everything except for, well, actually pretty much everything except for, Chavez, even though she's a huge part of that package as well now. Blade, I'm not a big fan of. I don't like discarding random cards, but in this case, you can see you're probably discarding something you want to discard, or you're hitting something that you don't mind hitting because you've got, cards that you can play instead. Morbius, I think, is great. Huge staple of this deck, as are the next 3, maybe even 4 cards. So Wolverine, Swarm, Colleen Wing, those 3 kind of just go together perfectly. You get Morbius down on 2. You've got one of the others plus Colleen Wing in your hand. You're slamming Colleen Wing on 3. Feeling pretty good about where you're at. Lady Sif is great to help you power up that Apocalypse. Now, Swordmaster and Hellcow are kind of newer inclusions in this Modoc deck, just because, they do offer 6 power, which is great. They offer you some discards, which can be great. I don't like, the randomness, but hey, we'll get over that. Dracula is here for Apocalypse or Chavez, depending on what you need to do on turn 6. Modoc really helps this deck go in discarding your whole hand, hopefully giving you a few free swarms, powering up that Apocalypse, and setting you up for a huge turn 6. Apocalypse, he's huge power, whether he's coming down on Dracula or you're playing him himself. And then Chavez is helping you draw a little bit more consistently. Now, I think this is a very solid deck, but the way I prefer to run it is actually, I don't like having Blade in my deck, or Swordmaster, or Hellcow. I prefer to run Nebula, and actually I was running the Collector as well. I think those are two really solid cards to have. And I know there was one other one that I've got in here, but I know who it was. It was Shang-Chi. I like having answers, and Shang-Chi allows me to do that. So this is the version that I prefer to run. You can either, you can power up your Morbius the same way, but the Collector is also great for getting Apocalypse back in your hand. You're getting your Swarms back. Collector doesn't go quite as crazy in this deck, but he got a little buff recently, so I wanted to show him some love. I think Nebula is a great turn 1 card, might be the best 1-drop in the game, which I'll talk about that in a future video coming up, where I'm going to do a tier list of all the 1-drops here, but this is the version I like to run, as opposed to what the site is saying. Overall, both of them are really good, super consistent. You can definitely climb with this deck. I even did a video recently on how to play Discard, and I'm pretty sure I used this version in the video. But that's Modoc Discard. Again, another consistent, solid deck. So if you've got it, hey, give this one a shot. You'll definitely climb some ranks with it. But let's hop right into the next one. And it's a super fun deck in Kitty Bounce. And again, this one is a little bit different from the version that I run. And I'll show you the one I run in a moment as well. But, the Hood, Kitty Pryde, Bost, Iceman, all your 1-drops you're hoping to play multiple times. Angela, Hitmonkey, Beast, Collector, Falcon, Mysterio, all your 2-drops. You can kind of see where this is going. You're having huge turn 6s. Everything is cheap. You could have an absolutely massive Angela, a massive Bishop, a massive Collector, and then Kitty Pryde is huge in herself. So this can be a super powerful deck. But again, it's going to have those same troubles that Sarah deck had, and decks that are looking to slow it down with Sandman or a turn 5 wave is absolutely going to crush this deck. So just be careful of that. And then Moon Girl to duplicate maybe those demons, maybe your Kitty Prydes, thing like that for your turn 6 play. But I personally, I don't run Moon Girl. I think she's a little bit expensive for 4, and I don't run Mysterio either. Instead, I like to opt for an additional 1-drop in the form of Korg. I also experimented with Yondu as well. And then I'm trying to think of what my other one was. It was actually Jeff. And it's because I love having the ability to move into locations that I otherwise wouldn't be able to. And this deck, that's one area where it lacks. It can't reach any of those locations. Jeff at least gives me a little bit, so that if my opponent couldn't, I could. If my opponent can, well, at least I can kind of compete there. But this is the version I run instead. Overall, this is a super fun deck to play, building massive Kitty Prydes, going off on crazy turn 6s, super cheap deck as well. So not going to be, really expensive. You can play multiple cards in one turn, and being able to play Iceman over and over, Korg over and over, feels really good. So definitely one of the up-and-comers in this meta, but a really fun deck to play. So again, give this one a shot. This is probably one of my favorite decks to play right now, for sure. But let's hop right into the next one. I mean, let's just keep this rolling, and it's, a Spectrum deck. It's ongoing. And before I kind of talk about this deck a little bit, I just want to say it's great to see that, decks like this, which would be considered kind of old, kind of basic, are still around and competing. And I think that's awesome. I think that's great for the game that these decks are doing so well. Lots of players have access to most of these cards, so being able to do well with them, I think is huge. And I mean, we know where this is going, right? All these cards are ongoing except for Spectrum, and she's buffing all of them. So you've got Ant-Man, you're trying to fill a lane, maybe lock it down with Professor X. If you need to buff a specific lane, you've also got Iron Man. You've got power to reach lanes that you otherwise wouldn't be able to in Mr. Fantastic, countering Galactuses and, you know, Wong style decks. And overall, it's just a really, really solid deck. I think Ongoing is probably one of the better archetypes in, you know, in the game. There are tons of cards that you can kind of put together, mix and match, and it just, I think it's in a really, really good spot. And I think it says something that this style of deck just keeps coming back because people are finding ways to make it work. And this is the version that's currently working. I haven't done too much experimenting outside of this version, although when I play my Spectrum style decks, I love to go with another big power dump. I typically don't run Iron Man or a Blue Marvel. I instead opt for a Destroyer, and then I love to have answers, so I always go Shang-Chi. If not Shang-Chi, sometimes I'll go Spider-Man as kind of a soft Professor X, but that's what I like to run instead. This would be my preferred Spectrum Ongoing. I would maybe even cut the Colossus as well, but he's great, and you know, his power can't be reduced, so you can play him on some of those lanes and, you know, not really hurt too much. But again, I think this is a really, really strong deck. You should have access to these cards, so definitely one worth giving a shot and learning to play the right way, just because it is going to keep coming back around. So well worth putting the time in to learn how to play this deck for sure. But let's get on to the last one, and it's right here, and it's a Death Null style deck. Now, when Wave got nerfed, I thought for sure that, you know, these decks with death in it were going to be pretty much done. Wave really enabled, you know, Death Wave, things like that, and Wave going down really, really hurts, but it's nice to see that people have made this deck work. A little bit different than, you know, the original style one, but that's because you got to find a way to make it work. The buff to Venom definitely helped, going up to 3 power there. So, you know, you've got a couple of 1-drops. Obviously, if you can get your Deadpool, you can destroy him on 2, you can destroy him on 3, on 4. All of a sudden, you've got a really, really nice sized Deadpool. We all know about the other package here in the form of Nova buffing everything, Bucky giving you that Winter Soldier, Wolverine coming back stronger and stronger, Killmonger to kind of destroy, you know, all these 1-drops. We've got 2 of them here, so definitely nice to have him in the deck, especially because there are so many Nebulas running around as well. We've got 2 more destroy options, and then Nimrod is kind of finding a nice little home in this deck as well. You know, adding copies to other locations can definitely be valuable. I like the inclusion of Zola. Zolaing something like a Venom feels really, really good. Zolaing Nimrod, again, feels solid. And even if you can't pull Zola off, there are times where you've destroyed enough that your turn 6 could actually be null and death. And that makes for an amazing turn 6 play that is more than likely going to win you the game. You know, a very similar style, but without Wave. Just a different place. Maybe not quite as strong as it was previously, but a different look that still looks pretty good. But these have been the 5 decks right here that are kind of running the meta right now. They have really, really high win rates. A lot of people are playing them and playing them well. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Are you guys playing any of these decks? What are some different cards that you're including in them? And just what do you think of the meta and where it's at right now? I personally love the position it's in. It seems there are lots of decks that can thrive, but I want to know what you think. So feel free to toss a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, as it really does help me out. But until next time, have some fun.